Just as the US is holding talks with Iran in Oman, and your allies in the GCC resumed relations with Tehran, the UK is going the other way, is escalating against the the Iranian government. Why?
What we have seen over the last 18 months is 16 attempted murders or kidnaps of people here in the UK. It's clear that Tehran is trying to silence criticism, silence dissenting voices. We regard that behaviour as unacceptable. So today I have announced a sanctions regime which gives me the opportunity, and the UK government the opportunity, to respond to Iranian behaviour. And I've also announced 13 further sanctions designations of people who are involved both within internal repression in Iran and aggression against the UK. But if Iranian behaviour changes, then I will not need to utilise the sanctions structures that I have put in place.
What does that mean, changes? What change you want to see?
Well, what we want to see is an end to the targeting of people here in the UK. We regard freedom of speech and press freedom as absolute priorities. So we say to Tehran, stop your aggression against critics based here in the UK. Also, Iranian behaviour in the region we regard as something which is a negative impact. We welcome the conversations and we welcome the ability to speak with the Iranian government. We hope that through diplomacy we can see a change in their behaviour, but we have to take action to defend ourselves, British people and our interests against the actions that the Iranian government have been taking.
But what's new? Iran has been destabilizing the Middle East for decades. The sanctions have been there for decades also. So what's new now?
Well, I think that the Iranian government, the Iranian leadership, should understand that the pressure that the Iranian people are feeling economically because of the sanctions that the international community have applied against the Iranian government and individuals within the Iranian leadership, those things are in their hands to change. The Iranian leadership could change their behavior. They could be a more responsible actor in the region and beyond. And if they were to change their behavior, we would be in a position to change our response. That's the offer that we make to Iran. Be a better actor, both within your own borders, in the region, and against the UK and our friends, and we will be able to change our response.
And when you talk sanctions, are we talking about proscribing the Revolutionary Guard, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, as a terrorist group?
Well, that is one of the options that we always keep in consideration. It's not something that we have done at the moment, but we have sanctioned the IRGC in its entirety. We have sanctioned certain individuals within the leadership of the IRGC. We always keep options open, and our response will always be linked to Iranian action. And if they want our response to change, then their actions should change.
Mm-hmm. Explain to us, the UK is going to breach the agreement of the JCPOA, which basically this agreement never really been implemented since 2015. So what does that breach mean anyway?
Well, we are committed to preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And on that issue, we of course stand in a complete solidarity with our European partners, with our partners across the Atlantic, and of course the partners in the region. We abide by our commitments, but we also have made it clear that Iran's continued pursuit of enrichment to increasingly high levels is not in compliance with the commitments that they have made. That again, they are choosing a path and we are responding to their choices. We make it clear that we are willing to engage with Iran, but they have to understand that their continued attempts to acquire a nuclear weapon is completely unacceptable, and we will work with our international partners to prevent that taking place.
So how does the UK view the Saudi-Iranian rapprochement?
Well, we welcome we welcome dialogue, and we hope that the conversations and the meetings that the Saudis have with Iran brings about a change of behavior. But ultimately, the choice is for the leadership in Tehran. We want to see Iran stopping the funding and equipping of armed militia groups, the Houthis, for example. And if this conversation between the Saudis and the Iranians can lead to that, that is positive. And we hope that China can exert an influence on Tehran to prevent them taking aggressive behavior against their neighbors in the region.
So the UK does not mind the role of China in the Middle East, this recent role?
Well, if China proves to be a force for good, if China encourages Iran to stop its aggressive behavior against its regional neighbors, then that would be a positive move, and we would welcome that. But ultimately, we judge things by their actions. And it's easy for Iran to sign up to agreements, and that is a potential positive step. But the more important thing is to see what Iran actually does, whether it abides by those commitments, whether it becomes a more peaceful neighbor.
فاصل قصير نتابع بعده هذه المقابلة الخاصة مع وزير الخارجية البريطاني جيمس كليفرلي. أهلا بكم من جديد في هذه المقابلة الخاصة مع وزير الخارجية البريطاني جيمس كليفرلي. So we were talking about China's role in the Middle East. Do you think that China can also play a role in the Russia Ukrainian war? Maybe it's time for peace?
Well, I think the country that wants peace more than any other is Ukraine. Ukraine has seen its sons and daughters killed and injured on the battlefield, its people attacked and its civilian infrastructure destroyed. So the Ukrainians want peace. But they have also seen that Putin still has aggressive expansionist intentions. And so we continue to support Ukraine in their self-defense, and we will do so until this has been successfully resolved. If China can impress upon Putin the error of his ways, if they can impress upon Putin the complete unacceptability of threatening nuclear war, and if they can impress upon Putin the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity, which they have said they value very, very highly, then I think that can be a positive move. At the moment, it seems Putin is not listening, but again, we want to see a proper peace arranged, a peace that respects the UN Charter and Ukraine's sovereignty. If China can play a part in that, we would welcome that action.
Zaporozhye nuclear station seems to be a ticking bomb, and Ukraine blames Russia, Russia blames Ukraine. Are you worried?
Well, of course, we take any risk to nuclear installations very, very seriously. I've had a meeting recently with Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, on this very issue. And of course, we should recognize that damage to civilian infrastructure and energy generation of infrastructure is a direct result of Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine. So the fact we're even having this discussion is because of Putin's decisions. Obviously, we want to see the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant safe and secure, and we'll work with the IEA to continue to make sure that is the case.
There are so many topics I want to talk about, but I will wrap with, I know your time is pressing. I just want to wrap with the Saudi-British relations. You said that Saudis are an incredibly important partner to Britain. What does that mean?
Well, we've had a very, very long-standing relationship with the Saudi people and the Saudi government. We recognize the influence they have in the region within the Islamic faith, and they have been a long-standing partner to the UK in many areas. Saudi's standing in the world, their influence in the world, is only going to increase over time. And we want to make sure that we continue to be a close partner to the Saudis. We have a strong, mature relationship. We're able to discuss issues directly, and I very much enjoy my relationship with His Highness the Saudi foreign minister. And so I have no doubt that as one of our key relationships in the region, the Saudi-UK relationship on trade, on security, on counterterrorism, on a whole range of issues will continue to grow in the years to come.
More trade deals, military deals, what are we talking about?
Well, we have had a long-standing defense relationship with Saudi. We help Saudi defend itself against aggression. We have a close partnership with regard to counterterrorism, which is in both our interests. But yes, indeed, we expect to see greater levels of trade across a wide range of goods and services. Saudi Arabia has an incredibly important role to play in the transition to green energy, environmental protections. So there are a lot of things, both traditional and new, that we'll be working closely with Saudi on.
And are you coordinating over Israel and the recent escalation in the West Bank and Gaza?
Well, I spoke just this week with the Israeli Foreign Minister and also the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority. We're calling for de-escalation, we're calling for dialogue. We see the terrorist attacks against Israeli citizens, which are unacceptable, and we see Palestinians' lives lost as Israel seeks to defend itself. We want to see the violence end. We want to see both Israelis and Palestinians living in peace, and we will continue to work to that objective.